Hey everybody, it's Kit here. Welcome back to another episode of Crochet Vlogs and Reading Lost in Time. Today's one of those days where I want to quit, where I feel like there's just some shame. I don't know why, but I just feel ashamed for sharing. For a while there, it got easier to share, and I got excited, and it was good, and now feel like, few steps forward, few steps back sort of a thing. But anyway, I'm not going to quit. I am in this for the long haul. I mean, we're so close now, just being real. Trying to tell myself it is okay to share, but I'm also terrified too. So, and not just reading this, but also just saying what I just did. It gonna be one of those weeks. Anyway, let's get into it, shall we? I don't know what we're going to do for a project. Part of me says I should be working on my friend's birthday present. But that is honestly a bit complicated, and I'm not necessarily in the mood for it at the moment. So I might just work on the blanket for myself that I've been putting off. Because, other projects required, my attention and stuff for other people, and yeah. So I might just do that just to make it easier on me this week. But anyway, so previously, Eli kind of talked about just, I think, a little bit of a time skip, how she got better from her injuries from chapter 15, her issues still trying to get the brooch, now she's got Dracula's button, da-da-da-da-da. But Dimitri actually asked her on a date, and they went on the date, and it was good, and it was cute, and they almost kissed, but, they got interrupted, as the usual cliche goes. So, now we're on chapter 17, Halloween Night Gone Wrong, because, it can only go downhill from here, just like what it feels like with my life. So, yeah. Really bad joke, but yeah. Anyway, so let's get into it, shall we? This is Halloween, this is Halloween. If I had to hear that sung one more time, I was going to lose it. Apparently Victor and some of the others were just in love with that movie. It's a Halloween tradition, Eli. Don't you have Halloween traditions? Yes, but I haven't done them in years. We would always just sit and eat tons of candy, watching movies with Halloween or horror themes, having dressed up and attended the office party the night before. When I was younger, Dad and Papa dressed up with me to escort me to get as much candy as I could, and I was a cute little girl with pigtails and a charming smile, so I got a lot. But as I got older, we opted for the easier version, going to the store and buying whatever we wanted to pig out on that night. I mean, that's fair. Sighing at the memories, I ignored the movie audio echoing throughout the dorm and fiddled with my hair again. True to my word, I was going to tonight's fling as Princess Leia, but these dang braids were impossible. No matter what I did, there was always the one side that was just off. And I just couldn't be bothered anymore. Grumbling, my hands went to fix my white robes and deemed myself ready. Princess Leia looked a bit off in the mirror, especially with one blue eye and one green eye. Blah, good enough. I sat down on the edge of my bed, checking the time on my phone. It was 7:46, and the party had started at 7, but everyone knows the party doesn't really get going till at least 8, apparently. My fingers brushed a vase as I put my phone back, and I smiled softly at the single daisy, the clear vase tied with a light blue bow at its slender neck. For the last week, I had been waking up or walking into my room to find a new flower or a similar gift. All from Dim, and he wouldn't tell me how he managed to get into a locked room. But either way, it was super sweet. I had a new necklace, a silvery blue star charm as its only decoration so far. I wore it tonight, along with my mark, which had changed ever since I had been to Travelerverse. Now I would find the occasional rift that would take me to Travelerverse, as long as I put my mark to it. I would have to ask Pop one of these days if there was a better way to get there, without insane leaps of faith that I never wanted to do again. Something I'm going to have to remember is, and actually I'm going to make a little note for myself, how exactly did it change? Sure in function, but in look? Sorry. Did the marker change? There we go. Sorry about that. I grinned as I thought of Simon, wondering if he had found his little present for Halloween yet. Just because it had been over a month since he left me there and Papa and Rosa had lectured him heavily or beaten him up for it, didn't mean that I myself had forgotten or let it go. So, last night before the party was over, I had Pop distract Simon, making sure he wouldn't go home early, and I may or may not have taken a trip to Simon's house and colored all of his pressure suits, of which he owned many, with all of the colors of the rainbow. Then, for good measure, I put pink dye into his laundry detergent. I had never done that before, but I wanted to know what would happen, and Simon had made himself a target on my list. Just imagining his enraged face sent me into a fit of giggles. I couldn't wait until Monday. Eli, why? A little anecdote, my, I don't know, this may be a bit weird, but, like, for all of my characters, they're almost like living beings in my head. They all have their own little quips, personalities, sometimes little thoughts, things they would say, and, my other book that I've written, A Witch's Debt, main character in that is Valerie, and Valerie just piped up in my head and said, "But why, though? That seems like a waste." Really? Avera? I hate those. I hate them so much. Okay. But anyway, yeah. Knowing Simon, he would surely retaliate by giving me a large stack of paperwork. He was many things, but creative wasn't one of them, so I was pretty safe from any pranks. So you think, honey. Specifically on the creative part. My phone buzzed with a text message from my favorite tech-savvy grandfather and only grandfather. Pop was just checking in, telling me he was getting the pumpkins from the pumpkin patch ready. Because of the big shindig party Greenville was hosting tonight, we both agreed it was best to postpone our Halloween night traditions until tomorrow night, regardless of if it was a school night. Dad had always been the responsible one set on a good education, but Pop always let me stay up as late as I wanted when Dad wasn't around, so long as I got my schoolwork done, so we wouldn't get caught. I grinned and texted back, reminding him to be sure to grab the biggest ones he could find, as well as the colored Sharpies, glow-in-the-dark paint, and the baby pumpkins. We loved our pumpkin time. At 8 o'clock, my door swung open, and Han Solo's better-looking younger brother waltzed into my room looking for his princess and found her checking on her mice farm, which was growing immensely. A smile curved on my face as his muscular arms wrapped around my waist. "Are you looking for a knight in shining armor?" he murmured into my ear as I straightened up, grinning stupidly. Cockily, I looked upwards at him, the back of my head resting against his chest. "I don't see a metal visor, good sir. Are you sure you're a knight?" He scoffed, drawing out a plastic space gun. Oh my god. From his belt. "Well, yeah, a space knight. which makes you my space princess, dear Leia. Oh my god, the flow, my god. Did I really write that? Oh gosh. Apparently 17-year-old me knew far better how to flirt than 26-year-old me, because I'm just sitting here dying. Like, it's not bad. I'm awkward. And sad. Okay. Ooh, cocky, I said softly, wiggling around till I was hugging him slightly. Then I stood on my tiptoes, whispering into his ear, half hidden behind his curls. But what if this princess doesn't need saving? His minty breath graced my face as he whispered back, then I guess we can skip the entire trilogy and... My heart raced as I tilted my head upwards to meet his lips until a certain little munchkin ran into my room, trying his hardest to be the Flash he was personified tonight. Oh, Victor, sweetie. Eli, look how fast I can run! Victor screamed, running circles around me and Dim as we pulled apart, hiding our frustration. Although Dim looked like he wanted to kick the kid out of my room, but the opportunity vanished as Vivian and her twin brother Samuel poked their heads in. Not that waiting on you two to finish your little makeout session isn't a blast, Vivian started, but we are all leaving for the party, so come on, Samuel finished. Twins. Sighing, I grabbed my purse and I shooed out both Victor and Dim as I locked the door behind me, all the while staring bemusedly at the twins' costumes. Vivian had an angel's halo on her head, but was dressed as the devil with the forked tail and red trident completing her outfit. As her opposite, Samuel had red curved horns coming out of his head, but dressed in all white, fluffy white rings fluttering on his back. Okay then. Honestly though, that is their personalities. Yeah. The entire gang was milling around by the front door, all dressed up in varying costumes that I didn't bother to examine properly. Dim grabbed my hand and coolly ignored the snickers and heckling of his friends behind us as we all walked in the shadowing lights towards the outdoor area, as the War Games conditioning field was where the party was being held. The morning's dose of vomit was gone. There's a space missing there. Gone, and the entire place looked really cool with refreshment tables set up in between games, trick-or-treat houses set up for the younger kids, free candy bowls constantly being refilled, cauldrons of beverages, and cool steam effects rising into the air. Screams and witches' cackles echoed through the place. It was hard to tell if it was coming from the sound system, music blasting through the hidden speakers, or from the people whizzing through the air on the roller coasters that had been painstakingly brought in earlier today. A huge dance floor was set up in the middle, along the edges were haunted houses, more rides and contests, a large pumpkin carving paddock with watchful volunteers, a monster maze, and hay rides through the forbidden woods. Smoky fog rose in the air, giving the entire field that spooky aura, and strobe lights completing the party scene. There was even a swamp to walk through. The only word I could think of for the entire thing was nuts. And here I was thinking it would just be a little dancing party in the gymnasium. Honestly, that sounds like so much fun. But I love places like that for Halloween. I haven't been to one actually since we left Utah 7 years ago. I miss those. It soon became clear that if we didn't stick together, we all would get lost. So I laid down the law, flinching at the memory of Caroline's expression when the kids expressed the desire to go. That expression had said one thing: you're in charge. Don't lose them, and they better come back in one piece or they will be heck to pay. For once, I was actually terrified of her reaction if tonight didn't go smoothly, although I was regretting my choice because they wanted to go everywhere. I was sure they didn't eat all that candy. I was shut down quickly, and so I silently followed the screaming bunch, the disgruntled expression on my face making it pretty clear I didn't want to be here. I watched envious as Dim and his friends promptly left me with the screaming screaming kids. Some of the older bunch and I exchanged numbers, promising to keep contact until it was just me and the younger ones, all intent on going to get their faces painted, riding the kiddie rides and roller coasters. Victor was the youngest at 9, but I snuck him on to the bigger rides with me. And of course, candy, and more candy. They won't be sleeping tonight without all that sugar. The thought made me want to take all the candy away, but I did nothing. Can I just say, Dimitri, sweetie, you just lost all of your brownie points that you have been earning over the week by dumping Eli in the middle of this. What do we think? What do we think, people who may be listening to this? I don't know. Did he lose his brownie points? I think he did. Then we all met up at the haunted hayride, splitting up because there wasn't enough room on one. Older kids minus me on one, and a short-tempered me with 12-year-olds. Kill me now. I checked my phone, ignoring the dying actors and crazy people trying to scare us. Not much managed to scare me anymore. Not after everything I'd seen. Well, if we don't count Churchman. Now that had been terrifying. Was it really only 9:40? This thing was not supposed to end until midnight, and I was already exhausted. I leaned back inside, locking my phone screen once more as I stared blankly into the darkness of the woods, reaching to the end of the haunted scenes. The hay made the back of my neck itch, but I slumped against the bale anyway, feeling tired. I heard screams somewhere ahead of us and knew there was one more scene before the end. Sure enough, as we got closer, it was like a picture straight out of a textbook. A witch tied to the stake, begging for her life as the townsman deems her guilty, setting it ablaze. The kids oohed and shrieked in fear as they turned towards us, rushing a cart, but that wasn't what frightened me to the core. It was the red eyes, flashing in the shadows behind the stage, and the malicious grin of the tattooed man as he stepped out of them. Completely black eyes, watching me as the cart moved away. Did you see that? The kids stopped talking and looked at me. What? The fire? Yeah, that was cool! They started whispering to each other again, but once again I hurriedly interrupted. No, the eyes. Behind the stage in the shadows. That guy. Did y'all see them? No, Elena. Maybe you were just seeing things. Yet somehow I didn't think I was. We trekked through the swamp next, the white edges of my robe becoming muddy and wet as did my sneakers underneath. The smell was putrid, and I was about ready to just murder the next zombie that moaned and yanked on the bottom of my robe, starting with my foot in the person's stupid face. This entire party was slowly bleeding away my love for this spooky holiday, and that put me in an even worse mood than before. I was silently thanking the gods and the Father Time that is, when we finally got to the pumpkin patch. But I didn't get to do a pumpkin. Oh no. I got to run around like a freaking mother hen and help the kids with the not-so-safe knives and carving tools. Since when was I seen as a motherly figure and not the enemy? I didn't even have time to think back through the last month and finally answered that pertinent question. That's how crazy these kids were. They just kept eating candy and drinking the root beer from those dang cauldrons. Okay, it was really good in their defense, and it kept driving me nuts. I followed them as we made the rounds again, having made sure their finished pumpkins would be delivered to our dorm. What a nice little delivery service the school has going. All the while, those red eyes and that man were in the back of my mind, a mystery that kept nagging me. I knew that they'd been there, and if the kids, who had been paying attention, couldn't see them, then they were there for me. They wanted me to know that they were there. But why? The older bunch soon caught up to us, or with us, as did Dim and his gang, and then we found ourselves on the busy dance floor with thrashing bodies and sweat all around us. Ew. Ugh. Yeah. But as Dim took my hand and led me closer to the hoppin' DJ, I found my hips swaying to the beat, and I didn't much mind anymore. It was Halloween. Wasn't I allowed to enjoy myself? Everything fled my mind as we danced wildly, and yet he was attentive to my comfort zones, which included no grinding, unless you want to do some body parts. We spun around, getting dizzy under the disco lights, laughing and having a blast. But it was too good to be true, because apparently dancing wasn't that fun to kids. I meant kids. Honest. But that was okay too, because everyone, Dim included, was coming to the maze, and then we could go back and finally get to bed. His hand never left mine as we fought our way through the crowds, and I got a good look at what we were about to get lost in. Dark green foreboding walls of green hedge towered in the sky, and you couldn't see too far in because of the thick fog that hung too heavily in the air to be natural. Some of the kids brought out their phones, using the flashlight app to try and see better, yet it did nothing but reflect back at them. I noticed some of them looking a bit scared until they divided themselves with their siblings and marched in, all the while laughing nervously. And I feel like I should explain, because all of the families basically have younger siblings. So it's not just like the heirs, but, pretty much all of the younger siblings up from a certain age. So, yeah. And that will change a bit in the rewrite. basically not as many, but there will still be some of the younger siblings that just want to go because, well, I mean, Greenvale does have a very good, it's a great school system, it's magic, and there is a level of freedom. So for the older children, think like Hogwarts, right? 11 years old and up. I mean, yeah, maybe like 9 years old will probably be the youngest, but yeah. And it's, of course, as long as they're with their older sibling and, so on and so forth, right? As I looked up at the sign declaring this place to be the Monster Maze, I genuinely hoped there were no monsters. Greenville couldn't be that mean, could they? Dim and I walked in alone, hand in hand. So that was all right. His friends ran off as soon as we found a crossroad, so it was just us, deafening silence, and the eerie feeling on the back of my neck that we were being watched. That last realization was very reassuring, even though I knew I could protect myself and Dim if need be. Those red eyes flashed in my mind again, and I repressed a shiver. As if noticing my nerves, Dim wrapped his arm around me, guiding me through the maze. Do you even know where you're going? I questioned, snuggling deeper into his embrace as a cool breeze whistled through the maze. We turned right and crossed into a dry cornfield-type maze hidden from the outside world by the tall hedge walls. Shrieks and screams of other people, at least I hoped they were people anyway, echoed through the night, but we saw no one. He scoffed, a typical guy response. Sure, I mean, this map is easy to read and all, he pointed out, referring to the map he swiped from the guy who was handing them out before. He let go of me to unfold it, and I laughed when I saw that it was too dark to even read properly. The fog made it impossible to see it via his fancy iPhone, and he grumbled incoherent words as he shoved it back into his pocket. Shut up, you. He poked me in the ribs, and I retaliated by smacking his head. Now, is that any way to speak to a princess? I smirked, walking ahead a little faster than him to see what was around the corner as the maze forced us to go left. I refused to be jump-scared, so I checked the spindly stalks, making sure no one was in there. What princess? All I see is an annoying but cute girl with her head in the shrubs. Ow, that hurt, Leah! He squealed, hopping up and down on his foot, with his foot up in the air as I doubled over into a fit of giggles. I had stomped on his foot as he tried to sneak up on me to shove me into the cornstalks. Bet he wouldn't try that again. But at least I'm a cute princess, I snickered as he looked up at me, revenge clear in his eyes. Run, princess. So I did. I turned and bolted, hiking up my muddy robes up as I forced my legs faster, doing my best not to squeal like a girl when I saw how close he was gaining on me. I heard an oof behind me and my robes ripped, tattered, flying in the wind behind me as I ran faster, almost stumbling from the uneven ground. I found I could run easier without the long dress, and I lost him easily, turning random corners until I stopped, breathing hard. The blood pounding in my ears, making it difficult to listen acutely for anyone running in this direction. But I wouldn't be going down to whatever Dim had planned without a fight. But no one came. Dim, I called out. Tense and ready to run if I heard him. But I didn't, and only then did I notice how silent it was. I felt jumpy, unseen eyes watching me silently, their gaze making my skin itch. I looked around cautiously, brushing stray strands of hair behind my ears, but I didn't see those red eyes. Maybe I was just seeing things. My gut told me differently, and survival instincts kicked in as I stayed frozen when someone hissed and slithered away, the cornstalks crashing into each other as it got away from me. Whatever it was. With my heart hammering away in my chest, I inched forward, staying away from the sides of the path and rounded the corner, wary of what I may find. And this is where things go pretty badly, so just, warning. Immediately, I felt sick and almost wanted to throw up. Jane. Cute little Jane, who had dressed as Red Riding Hood tonight, was tied to a big cross in the very center of the maze. Rusty barbed wire cutting deeply into her skin as it kept her there. Blood. There was so much blood. She couldn't... No. Oh, by the Father. I breathed, fighting my initial instincts to run and check on her. It was a trap. It had to be. Yet nothing was there. No eyes, no creepy man. It was silent, and that was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. I grabbed my phone, shakily unlocking it, only to find I had no signal. None. No. I forced myself to step closer, the stench of her blood making me want to gag. She was so high up there. How did they even... Who was they? Where was her brother Alaric? He had taken her. He was supposed to be here. Was he injured too? Question after question panicked me to my core, yet my steps were slow and steady as I inched closer, ready for whoever had done this to come back, because this was intentional. She was set up grotesquely, and as I got closer, her head was hanging limply forward, hair in a knotted, bloody mess, skin white against the crimson blood pouring from her many wounds. I realized whatever had done this wasn't human. Deep claw marks cut into her arms and legs, her robes hanging in jagged tatters off of her body, the simple yoga pants and long sleeve top split down the middle. I wanted to throw up. They hadn't touched her, had they? She was only 12. They wouldn't. I was standing mere feet away when it hit my nostrils. The stench of what had done this burned my senses. Demons. Fire and brimstone. Such cliches, but they were creatures of hell after all. The red eyes from before. It all made more sense. I nearly jumped out of my skin, biting my tongue to keep quiet as Jane groaned, her eyelids fluttering as they fought to open, her face deathly pale, dark, swollen, purple bruises evident. I immediately threw caution to the wind and hurried to help her, dropping my phone in an instant as I struggled to unbind her ankles. Why barbed wire? It was impossible to get out of her poor skin easily without tearing at her flesh. Eli? Her weak voice shook, and I tried to smile as reassuringly as I could up at her, making no progress with the barbed wire. Jane, it'll be okay, okay? Don't talk, just shush. Just stay awake, okay? Your brother, he'll be here soon, alright? It will be fine. Everything will be okay. It was all I could do to keep my voice from shaking as I managed to get the barbed wire slightly loose, but it was stapled to the post. In my time of need, my magic did my work for me, my memories feverishly finding a useful rift for me. I desperately needed a pair of wire cutters, otherwise I would never get Jane down in time to save her. The rift slowly came into focus beside me, a haunting blue glowing brightly against the gloom and horror. The fog hid. What the hell? The fog hid. I thrust my hand in and pulled out the desired tool. Thank you, Father. I sent a hasty prayer upwards, immensely grateful to Father Time, and made quick work of the rest of the many wires around her ankles, wincing each time Jane whimpered, feeling useless. Why didn't I stop this? I could have insisted we all go together. Should have listened to my gut, but no. I just had to be a lovesick fool, didn't I? All it takes is for a guy to show interest, and all of a sudden you're awful at your job. I was sick with myself. She was just 12. She didn't deserve this. Cold fury swept through me as I looked at her, tears falling helplessly from her pretty brown eyes. When I found who had done this, they would have a painful death. I would make sure of that. Jane started to nod off again as I got rid of the last of the barbed wire. No, Jane, come on, stay awake, stay with me, I yelled urgently. Relief swept over me as I heard yells and someone or multiple people running in this direction. Over here, I screamed, hoping it was help. Laura rushed in, eyes wild with worry. Jane, what did you do? He snarled, shaking me, anger etched in his face. I pushed him away, ignoring the hurt I felt as I looked up at her wrists. Those wires were the only things holding her onto that cross, and they were hurting her even more now. I didn't do anything, but if we don't act now, she is going to die, Alaric. Be mad and pissed later, but give me a dang boost, I ordered, staring him down. I didn't do it, but I wasn't going to try and convince him of that now. I had to get her down, and that cross was staked at least 10 feet into the air, but he and I were just tall enough that I would be able to reach her hands. Scowling, Alaric bent down a bit so I could clamber on his back, my muddy shoes doing wonders for his Hulk costume. Groaning with effort, he stood as the others ran in disarray. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to change it. Oh my god, I'll go get help. Samuel ran off again. A little girl who looked Jane's age, hot on his heels, screaming something about 911. The others came to help Alaric and to spot me. I hoped anyway, in case I lost my footing. Charlotte was over at Jane's bare feet in a panic, shrieking at me to hurry up. Balancing precariously on his bony shoulders, I hurriedly cut the rest of the barbed wires, telling some of them down there to hold Jane up as best they could, Jane crying in pain as only one wrist was holding her up now. Alaric stumbled to the other side, and relief crashed through me again as Jane was finally down, the others clumsily catching her. Alaric let go of my ankles and rushed to his sister, and I fell hard on the rocky ground, seeing stars as I hit my head on a tiny stump. No one helped me up, but I expected that, rolling to my feet unsteadily. Get her out. Now. Everyone out. No one challenged my tone. Working together as they tried not to jostle her too much. Charlotte barking out orders, concerned for her health. I faintly remembered Charlotte being the only healer, or something similar. Alone, I tried making sense of the cross, bloody and empty. Demon marks were etched into it, black and almost invisible in the bloodstains. A message for someone, but I couldn't read their language. Biting my lip, I ran out of there, following the kids as we made the trek out of the maze. Every minute we were in there seemed an eternity, and every good and bad scenario flew through my mind. I was constantly on guard, wondering where Dim and his gang were and why they were notoriously absent. Did they have something to do with this? Were all of the kids accounted for? Were the demons still there? Still here? What more did the night have in store? The matron and investigators were milling about the entrance, ready to take Jane and everyone. The rest of the maze had been evacuated, everyone accounted for, until I saw an hysterical Isabella Maestros with her little sister. I think her name was Kira. I hurried over, on alert for anything wrong. What they told me made my heart sink. Isabella's younger twin siblings, Kira and Cade, had been arguing the entire night and had a huge spat in the middle of the maze. Neither would listen to Izzy as they ran away to get away from each other. Isabella had found Kira, but Cade was nowhere to be seen, and with what had happened to Jane. Dim appeared behind me, my face serious. No, you stay. Lee and I will go. You two go to the hospital. Kira, you need to get your knee looked at, he said, gripping my shoulder tightly. Isabella hugged her sister tightly to her, tear-streaked face set in worry for her brother. Kira sniffled, her leg having a nasty gash in it from where she tripped while running. It was why Isabella had found her. I nodded at Isabella, motioning towards the matron who was herding all of the kids around who were going to the hospital ward at the heart of Goma. I did my best to smile at her reassuringly. Go on, Isabella. Take care of Kira. I promise you. I promise that we will find your brother. She gripped my hand tightly, nodding at me frantically before picking her up her sister and making her way over to the matron and the investigators. With a sigh filled with determination, Dim and I turned back to the maze, dark and foreboding, but even worse now that I knew what was lurking inside. Real monsters. Gazes set, we ran in. Oh, excuse me. I'm gonna grab a drink real quick. We didn't rush through wildly, but we didn't go slow either. We had a lot of land to cover, and there were only two of us, but we didn't dare split up or speak, not when we could feel their eyes. Now I could see the red eyes everywhere, and so did Dim. I was angry now, glaring back menacingly. I may not know Cade personally or take a lot of interest in their lives, but this was my coven. Whoever had messed with Jane and had taken Cade was going to pay dearly with their lives. That's when the voices started. Harsh whispers taunting me about how I wasn't fast enough to save Jane, that I wouldn't find Cade, that I was weak. Too weak to save my father from them, too weak to save Jane, that I was weak and shouldn't live. Dim snarled back, sounding like a lion, and that's when I noticed the magic. Dark and angry, clinging to his skin. It was covering his arms and whirled around his clenched fists. He was ready for a fight. It shook me that they mentioned my father. How did they know? How did they know my deepest, darkest fears? The answer became apparent when the maze turned against us, the right side closing as the hedges grew wildly, barring our way. Left it was, bloody footprints and claw marks led the way, the other pathways closing as we neared. It wanted us to find them. I was numb, not from shock, but with magic. I felt the heat as the flames itched to come out, grazing my fingers. Not yet, I told them. Not until they show themselves. I wasn't about to jeopardize Cade's life. We turned the corner and there he was, the black-eyed man. Only he wasn't a man anymore. That had been an illusion. His skin was a light gray. Hello, British English. Horrifying scars etched into his skin and black ink running through his visible veins. He was naked. his razor-sharp claws tucked around Cade's bare neck. Loose enough to not cause any harm, but it was a threat. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, where rows of sharp teeth jutted out, spit dripping from them, splattering on Cade's hair, which was sticky with blood, spittle, and snot. The demon was a mouth breather and needed to tissue desperately. It was gross and sickening. I slowly walked forward, meeting his eyes, all black with no soul. He was waiting for me. Dim yelled, running forward stupidly, that magic swirling faster and faster, ready to do something. My stomach dropped as the demon grinned, his free hand lifting and his pointer finger extended from his oversized fist, one curved claw pointing directly at Dim. I watched it like it was slow motion, horror sweeping through me as Dim's face cut open, his body crumpling and flying backwards against the cornstalks, crashing and flying through them. He disappeared from sight, a trail of blood landing on the ground, the only sign he had been there. I swallowed, looking at the blood, then at the smirking demon, clenching my jaw tightly. Right there. What do you want? I asked it, meeting its hungry gaze. Cade sniveled feebly, fear evident in his deep blue eyes, staring at me, his hopeful pleas echoing in his gaze. The demon, as if sensing this, tightened his grip on the boy's neck slightly, and it was all I had not to make a move. He wanted me to. He wanted me to try and save this boy. But we both knew, I knew what would happen if I moved. So I kept my face blank and waited for the answer. After a moment, the demon straightened, getting down to business. To deliver a message from my master. There is nothing you can do. We took your precious father. He had his fun with him, you know. He screamed and screamed as we tortured him. His pain was just so exquisite. He paused, relishing the pain and anger in my eyes as I forced myself not to move. Cade's life is on the line, Eli. Just stay. You cannot move. A challenging glint overtook the demon's eyes, chilling me to the bone. Now, he wants you. So be warned, little traveler. We know who you are and what you can do. We will find you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I saw it before he did it, his hands tightening on Cade's neck as my ball of flame hit his face dead on. The cursed fire overtaking the demon immediately as I leapt forward, pulling Cade to me as I shielded his small body with mine. The fire was a ticking time bomb. Demons don't die from fire easily, but exploding? Oh, heck yes. Yeah. He did it, because he was going to, unalive the little boy, because, you know, he's not nice. Good on you, Eli. Burning bloody bits of demon thickly coated my back, the bits dripping off of me. Cade was full out crying and screaming now, shuddering in my embrace as his fists tightened on my clothing. Urgently, I pushed him forward as the red eyes snarled in fury over their brother's death, shrieking for my blood. I had an answer for them as they all came out of the woodworks, which was more fire, of course. I yelled, both sides of my heritage heeding my call as fire blasted from my extended fingertips towards them. The flames shaping into warriors of the past, rifts opening all around me as their weapons came flying out to join their hands. Everywhere the flame men walked caught on fire, spreading faster than any normal fire could, but I was furious. The weapons danced their deadly tango as I pushed Cade into action, running towards where Dim had disappeared to while keeping a steady grip on Cade's skinny wrist. Dim was a few meters away, groaning loudly as he held his bleeding face. We got to go. Get up, I shrieked, grabbing the back of his shirt and yanking him up. More demons were coming out, but so were the firemen. Everything that fire touched exploded and spread the fire further. If we weren't out of this maze soon, we were all dead. We ran blindly through the maze, not daring to look behind us as the demons howled and the fire blazed. I wouldn't stop the fire. There were too many demons needing to be burnt. I had to send a message. Lights of the party dazzled at us as we burst through the entrance, and I let go of both Dim and Cade, sending them sprawling as I whirled around, hands outstretched, reaching for that magic once more. The maze exploded, the fire extending outward as it crashed into my invisible force field, the heat burning the palms of my hands as I strained against the magic. Stay in, keep it up, Eli. I gritted my teeth and held on, hearing the screams of the dying demons and the laughs of the firemen. When I felt no more life in the maze and no more demons, I pulled it all inwards, the fire funneling back into me again, sending me flat on my back. This time I stayed on the ground, wheezing as I held my side, major stitches forming. I had a raging headache and a heck of a nosebleed, but we were alive. Thank you, Father Time. Matron came rushing over, and through my dizzied vision, I saw Dim being put on a stretcher and someone leading Kate away. The face of a concerned man entered my vision, and I blinked slowly. Ma'am? Are you okay? Hang on, someone's coming. His voice rang in my ears, but I registered what he said, and I sat up, stumbling to my feet as my head swam. No, I'm fine. Just a nosebleed. I need to go with my friends, I said confidently, spotting Kate and Dim being bundled into a portal setup. I shook my head and ran over, taking Kate and Dim's hand as we walked through. Whew. Dang. Okay. That was a hectic chapter, and I have to say I really did like it. Yeah, I think this is probably the first time since the hurricane that Eli's shown a massive boost of power. I actually kind of forgot that she was able to do both sides of her heritage, so that's very interesting. I actually really liked that. Something I'm going to keep in, actually. Yeah. As for how she's feeling, the side effects of it, those will be amped up, but all in all, I liked the chapter, and I'm glad I read it and did the episode, because it got fun, so, yeah. Yay! Demons are after Eli, and they're you know, there is something to be said for, well, why didn't they just grab her? And for that, I feel like the answer could also just as easily be, well, demons are notorious for playing with their food and not very nice, and just, causing a good amount of fear before they swoop in for the kill, so to speak, and this was one hell of a way of doing it. The Coven, and especially Alaric and stuff, thinking Eli did it. I mean, I'm not sure if I'll necessarily keep that or not. But yeah, all in all, I don't know, I enjoyed it. I guess somebody can let me know. I don't know. I don't really know a lot anymore. But yeah, so hopefully we got a good amount done on the blanket. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys possibly, I don't know, next week for chapter 18, Secrets in Plain Sight. And we will find out the fate of Jane. Does she survive? Does she not? Who knows? What ramifications are there going to be? Eli did kind of explode school property. And what ramifications will there be with the adults, with the Coven, so on and so forth. Yeah, so see you guys later, I guess, and have a great week, a good Tuesday, and don't forget to show yourself some grace. Okay? Bye.